Good evening and salutations, my Days of Our Lives fans. So let's start off with Leo. Um, so for some odd reason, he decided to call Marlena, to sit there and talk about one of his wet dreams. And Marlena's like, "Listen, unless it's an emergency, don't call me. Like, don't. That's not what I'm here for." So at some point, he runs into Teresa, which is actually a good scene because it's kind of like he's breaking the fourth wall. He's like, you kind of reminded me of my friend, except for, she has better hair and this, that, and the third. Um, so I thought that was kind of a interesting little cheeky cheek moment. He tries to interview her, talking about, are you marrying this guy for love? Like, how did you get him? And this, that, and the third. So they talk for a little bit. She's kind of defensive, somewhat, but he also is like, as far as personality, the very spunkiness, the very feisty. You also remind me of my friend as well. But he also does feel bad because he really screwed her over. Um, I mean, technically, when they were together, they were screwing each other over back and forth. So, in reality, it's like I feel bad for Gwen, but at the same time, she was also screwing him over as well. Now, at some point, he does make an appointment to go see Marlena. Keeps wanting to say Marlena, and he talks pretty much about how he just feels lonely. He could be in a room full of people, but he still feels lonely. He only has certain type of relationships, and basically those relationships he keeps at a distance. He doesn't really let people get close. Talks about certain shallow relationships and certain maybe hookup relationships, but nothing too serious. And of course, this all stems from his childhood, which was actually pretty heartbreaking because his mother practically broke him since he was a child, saying he was worthless, and now he's growing up with all these different issues and stuff. And on top of his last relationship with Dimitri, he's at a point where he feels like he doesn't deserve love. He doesn't deserve to be with anyone. Which I'm not saying Leo's the best character, and he's done some messed up things, but I don't think that. Well, Marlena was like, no one deserves to be alone, or no one deserves to feel like they should be alone, and that is definitely not true. But most people, unless you're committed capital unaliving or whatever, um, you deserve love. So with that being said, he does set out to go and schedule a visit with his mother, which I don't know if that's exactly a good thing because he seemed like he's making progress, and seeing her may just wind up setting that issue all back. Now Xander talks to Maggie, and he tells her about Constantine and how he pretty much took him out. He shot him. And at first she was like, well, one of the things she was like, yo, I hope he burns in hell. But then Xander was like, you know what? I didn't even actually have to do it. I wanted to do it. Yesterday, the day before, Jada was there being kind of a smart ass and being like, oh well, did you have to sit there and shoot him? And did you have to sit there and end his life? Couldn't you just shot him in the leg or the foot or something like that? But in reality, he was like, he could have just wrestled Constantine off of her, but he chose to sit there and put him down because of Victor. Now, I've only heard stories from the show as far as Victor treating Xander like trash, pretty much. Um, but Maggie's like, you're the closest when it came. You're more like Victor than out of like all his sons and everything. And regardless of how bad he treated you, you still stuck around. I don't know what kind of relationship they had. I mean, He was willing to sit there and put Constantine down, and I think that was partly for Victor, but I think it was also partly for Victoria. But she's not really shedding any tears, and I mean, yeah, she feels bad for being glad that he's gone, but no one's really gonna miss him. Hell, even the fans won't really miss him. Now, I was about to call her Gwen. Teresa is not there looking at the painting and talking about her plans, and yeah, at some point she's like, yeah, screw Xander or whatever. And Bonnie walks in. Bonnie's like, what do you mean screw Xander? Didn't he save your life or something? And then she tried to cover it up or whatever, and she's like, yeah, I gotta go, I gotta do stuff or whatever. And Bonnie's like, yeah, she's not being honest. Now, Alex goes to see Marlena just to give him a progress update and talks about how he was honest with, he was finally honest with Teresa. He squared things out with Brady as far as whatever was about to go on, up until the point where Brady pretty much was like, you're doing him a favor. Now, Alex does ask, like, should I be able to trust her? You think I can trust her, Marlena? And Marlena's like, it's not really professional for me to sit there and say. And I get that on one level, but I'm like, Teresa, okay? If somebody sits there and asks you, can I trust this chick? And you don't say too much of anything, like when the whole thing comes out, part of her probably gonna feel bad that when that day came and he asked her, could I trust her? And you didn't say anything, and you knew in your gut that the answer was no. You're gonna feel partly bad about that. But then he goes to Teresa and confesses his love for her, saying that I love you. And see, this is the reason why this casting doesn't work. Because if it was Jennifer Lilly, it would have just came across so much better. But we know that it's just whatever her name is in a bad wig at this point. So it's like for me, it just falls flat. I mean, I see that scene just going so much better. Here's the thing, even if we didn't have Jennifer Lilly, we had another actress. I feel like that scene would have been much better. Unfortunately, because they decided to royally screw up, this is the reason for me personally why this scene is so flat. Now, after Sarah left Maggie and went downstairs, she got a phone call. And Bonnie was like, oh, is this, well, actually, no, she went downstairs. They were talking about something. And then she gets a phone call. And at first, Bonnie thinks it's from Xander's mother because that phone number called back, but it turned out it was somebody else who had that number. And when she hung up and she told Bonnie, yeah, it wasn't Xander's mom. She looked really bummed, like she looked really disappointed. I'm kind of just like, why are you so bummed out by this? You knew damn well that your man didn't even want to sit there and speak to this woman. Why? Like I guess in my head's like, why is this so important for you? Xander said that she was a terrible, god awful woman. And for some odd reason, you're just like, I want Victoria to sit there and meet her other grandmother. But her other grandmother, according to Xander, is trash. So why would you want your daughter to sit there and meet a trash ass person? Make that make sense to me because I'm not understanding that. Now, eventually, she does talk to Xander and she tells him the bad news to her, and he's like, well, maybe it's for the best or whatever. She really looks disappointed. He's like, at the end of the day, I'm kind of just like, you do realize you are marrying Xander, right? Not Xander's. Like, why are you so? I don't know. I don't get it. I don't get it. Um, Now Julie and Chad are talking about, going to, um, out there to look for the deposit box, deposit box or whatever, and see what kind of clue that Clyde left. And Jack shows up. Jack, they're talking for a little bit. They're talking about Abby and everything, and I think he goes in the room and he does something. Or he goes to see the kids. Oh, that's what it was. They were talking, and then there was a certain point where it's like they were trying to hide something. They were trying to hide the possibility that Abby's alive, and he started asking questions after questions after questions. Like, what are you hiding? This is the news. This is the reporter made. Something's going on. Like they had like this very glaring tell where it's like, what are you hiding? Like they're not even good liars at this point. But eventually they were able to sit there and shift the conversation onto something else. And Jack goes to see the kids and comes back. And Jack is like, Thomas just told me that Abigail's still alive. I mean, I know he probably meant like in our hearts and everything like that, but then he just starts going on and on and on for a little bit. And eventually he leaves. Jack's like, listen, I can't wait another day. We got to sit there and we got to do this. We got to do this now. Jack is fueled up. We got to go. And I think the last thing for them is them actually going to the bank, waiting for the guy to, give them whatever's inside the deposit box. Jack runs Nabani for a little bit. Nothing really happens in that conversation. It's kind of just like filler. What else happens? I mean, I also think, just going back to the whole Teresa talking to the painting thing, I think it's just so hilarious that she starts talking to this painting like no one else at any point in time could just walk into the room and overhear what she's saying. So at some point when she's talking about all this different stuff. Yeah, I know I screwed Xander out. That's your real son and stuff like that. I'm just like, I get that they need to do exposition to catch people up on stuff if they're just tuning in for the first time, right? I get that part. But then it's also just like, why are you telling all this out loud in a very open space where there's so many different ways of coming into that living room and overhearing what she says? So it's like when Bonnie walked in, and you just have that, oh man, she must have heard something, so she's gonna start questioning. It's like shocking, really. Her pretty much telling her dirty little secrets, but somebody to sit there and hear a clip of what she says and starts asking questions and watching her get all flustered and trying to um dodge these questions. It's like, really? But that's soap operas for you, or that's Days of Our Lives. I don't know. I feel like that's pretty much about it. I can't think of anything else I want to happen. This episode was middle ground, to be honest. Um, you could have missed this episode, and you really wouldn't have missed much. But if I missed anything, write it in the comment section below. But yeah, come to the live stream tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We'll sit there and talk about all the shows. General Hospital, Days of Our Lives, Born the Beautiful, Young and the Restless. I will see you in the next video.